The Bocksaga, an amazing story about the origin and evolution of mankind.
The Scandinavian countries are full of sagas and mythologies. So has Finland, for instance, the Kalevala. And the Kalevala was written in the 16th century after it was collected by somebody, because the material for the Kalevala comes from generation to generation, the stories, the songs, and everything relates to that old heathen time of which not so much is known. Then also in Scandinavia, in Copenhagen, they have in the museum the so-called Edda, which again talks about this heathen time, and it relates about the gods and the heroes. And stories both from the Edda and the Kalevala, they are a little bit the same. They have the same kind of figures, and if you want, you can make some kind of story out of it. Now, the newest on the area of Scandinavian mythologies is called the Bocksaga. And this is fascinating right from the beginning, because this Bocksaga is not written down. Up till today there is no written recordings of this story. It lives in the mind of one single man, a Finnish guy called Bock. And this Bock, since 1984, he is talking almost daily, story after story, a mix of mythology, of symbolic language, of what he says history, and he blends it to such an amazing unity that I decided to go and visit him. He lives outside of Helsinki in a place called Gumbostrand.
Tällöin alkaa varsinainen yöradiolla.
At Mr. Bock's residence, and I have a chance to talk with Michel Merle, who is here, and who has been talking a lot about this Bocksaga. Actually, I call him a specialist, although you say you're not a specialist. I find you a real specialist. Uh-huh. And I wanted to ask you, how did you get to know this Bocksaga? How did you find out about it?
It's called Bocksaga, or Wijnen mythology. It is a mythology that still exists in Finland, and it specifically relates to Uudenmaa, which is one province still existing today in the south of Finland. We are now in that area. And I have one friend here who I met many years ago, in 1975. And we have been meeting each other regularly, traveling together. And in 1984, shortly before his mother died, he had the right from the family to start to open this subject, Wijnen mythology or Bocksaga.
And that's Bock you're talking about.
Yeah.
And this saga, I know it takes you probably a lifetime to really find out, but could you try to very shortly condense, say, like, about which time this saga talks, for instance, and just the big headlines.
The Bocksaga or Wijnen mythology is based on the sound of the root language, the language which is still spoken in the archipelago in front of Uudenmaa, this province in the south part of Finland. It's a language which we today call Swedish language, but it's actually not Swedish. The Swedish, they sing the sounds of the root language, whereas the root-speaking people speak the same like you and I speak. This root language consists of 29 sounds, where every sound has a meaning. And it is our language by itself which basically tells this mythology. It's a very long story, like you say.
Just to make it more clear that by really understanding this root language, you automatically start to understand the saga?
No. The saga is different, of course. I mean, we don't have any information relating to this saga because it has never been written. It has been orally transferred within this family. And of course there has been one time in the history when we have been living according to the mythology, like we still find so many mythologies all over the planet. All of the mythologies that exist today on the planet, they are all based, according to this story, on Wijnen mythology. The mythology which still exists here in Finland, and is one mythology that deals with the time, or starts before ice time, when all this bowl was tropical, and it tells about the nature, it tells about how the nature come into existence, how the human being appear in this nature, and how we in one breeding system spread out over all this planet, over all this bowl, and start to populate it according to one system. And this whole system, this whole story is based on the sounds of this root language, this language which holds the key to hold this story.
So actually it is the story of the beginning of mankind, so to say.
Yes, it starts with that.
And never anything was written down about it?
No.
And so the only source of information is Ior Bock?
Today, yes. But it has been spread, of course, since 1984, so we have been creating one main line of this story. And there we, in one short form, start to get, in one logical order, one idea of this, what we call paradise time, when all this planet was still tropical, how we moved to ice time, and how we have continued after ice time up to the present day. All this mythology talks about this time.
So before the ice time, this was tropical?
Yes.
This area where we are now?
Where we are now was tropical. Because this area, or Uudenmaa, is actually one ring land. The center point is in the mythology called Hell, or it's, to be more specific, it is on 7 islands in front of Hell. Hell is what is today called Helsinki, and in front of there are still today the 7 islands, on which of the center island called Oudensö is the middle point of Uudenmaa. From there you can go about 125, 130 kilometers west to one place called Hanko, one peninsula, and from there, taking the center point of this Oudensö, this Ouden island, you can make one ring, and that creates Uudenmaa.
And that Uudenmaa, as you told me before, that was the country where paradise was, where people lived in a certain system, and from there, according to that system, spread out over the rest of the world.
Yeah, so actually the whole world was paradise, or the whole planet, we should say, was paradise. Paradise time is the tropical time on this planet, so it's the time before the ice time, when this specific point, this island in the center of Uudenmaa, was the North Pole. So we had North Pole and South Pole going in a straight line down, and this ball turning around this pole, traveling around the sun, which made that all this ball was tropical. The North Pole had 24-hour light, the South Pole had 24-hour light, but in that time the South Pole was in the water, somewhere in the Pacific, and when you come to the equator you have 12 hours light and 12 hours dark.
Oh, and this is because the Earth, which is round,
yeah,
makes a different movement than it does nowadays.
Yeah, so in that time the pole was straight, North Pole, South Pole, and this ball turning around. But this time this ball is turning in this way around its axle. So we get ice time when the Earth axle shifted.
How is it possible that your book has this information? How did he hear about it? Was there any books he could read? Or?
No. It is an oral tradition which has been kept within this family. So he get this story from his father and his mother, or through his mother and his sister, his mother's sister. It is a tradition which has been kept in this family after Uudenmaa became destroyed, which happened in 24/7, the year 1050, when Finland became a part of Sweden and a part of the new information system that arrived on the planet. In that way, these people couldn't anymore talk about this time before 1050, which we refer to as the heathen time, because now we are living under a new information system where you was not allowed to talk about the heathen time, so they transferred this knowledge within the family from generation to generation to generation without to ever write it down. But it is based on the principle of the root language, where every sound has a meaning. So when you know these 29 sounds with their meaning, it's not so difficult in that way to keep the story in the brain and keep it originally, because you can't change the meaning of the sound. You change the meaning of one sound and the whole story collapses.
Mm-hmm. So actually the meaning of this alphabet was the guarantee that the story somehow stayed the same.
Yes.
Wow, that's really amazing. And you say in the ice time there was lots of ice here. How did people survive in that time?
When the Earth axle of this ball shifts about 30 degrees, it was one big catastrophe that was happening, of course, in that time, which makes that enormous amount of water damp come out from the ocean and move in the atmosphere, where they collect at both poles through the rotation of the Earth and come down in the form, this water damp comes down in the form of ice and cover the north part of this bowl from the Pyrenees, Alps, Black Sea, Caspian Sea, Mongolia, going over to northern Japan, San Francisco, New York, about this line, back to the Pyrenees. All this area become covered with ice. Also the South Pole become covered with ice, and the mountains become covered with ice on this planet. But because there is a natural phenomena that originates in the Gulf of Mexico, the hot Gulf Stream coming across the Atlantic, hitting the north coast of France, going through the English Channel between England and Holland into the Gulf of Oslo. From there it rebounds and goes southeast to between where is today Denmark and Sweden and hits the north coast of Germany. And from there it rebounds again and shoots straight northeast into the Finnish Gulf, to that place where today is Leningrad. And there all this hot water traveling from the Gulf of Mexico can't go any further. It becomes locked within this Finnish Gulf and starts to turn around itself, create one rosette of hot water, which made that this area, Uudenmaa, remained ice-free. So the people could survive within one hole in the ice. They were surrounded by a mountain of ice which stretched to the north part of this bowl, to where today is North Pole and the other side, and south to the Alps and the Pyrenees. So they become completely locked off from these people who are what we call tropical people, who live from the Mediterranean and south in all directions.
Wow. So they could continue living here, and then they were living, according to what you said before, this breeding system. Can you explain what that means?
Now for that it's more easy when we go back to before ice time. Before ice time we had one system of how we create people, how we populate this bowl. And it was based on one breeding system that started here in Uudenmaa. In Uudenmaa is one ringland where live two castes of people, and outside of Uudenmaa live people in the form of, we can say, tribes, in other ringlands that consist of 3 castes of people. The highest caste we call Piru Et. Et means family, and Piru is the head of this family. And this Piru Et consists of 1 father and 1 mother who create 12 sons and 7 daughters. The first son becomes Seppo Ilmarinen, he becomes the king, and the first daughter is called Maya, and she is the queen. Both of them represent moon. The 12th son, when he becomes 27 years old, he gets the title Lemminkainen, and now he is the one who is making the children. So the 7 daughters and the first 11 sons, they don't make any children, only the 12th son makes children. So now this Lemminkainen, when he becomes 27 years old, he goes together with the most healthy and beauty woman on the planet, and she gets the title Swan. She becomes the Swan, or in Finnish language, Joutsen. And now from 27, this Lemminkainen and this Joutsen make again 12 sons and 7 daughters. The first son, Seppo Ilmarinen, the first daughter, Maya, king and queen, who don't make children. And again the 12th son, Lemminkainen, who when he becomes 27 years old, again goes together with the most healthy and beautiful woman on the planet. And from her again come 12 sons and 7 daughters. So in this way, this family perpetuates itself. Now when this former Lemminkainen retires because his 12th son becomes 27 years old, the former Lemminkainen becomes Ukko, and the former Joutsen, she becomes Akka. So in this family we talk about Ukko and Akka, which are the father and the mother, the first son and the first daughter, Seppo and Maya, the 12th son with his swan, Lemminkainen and Joutsen, and there is 2 more figures, Sampo and Aino. Sampo masculine, Aino feminine, Frey and Freya in root language, Seppo and Maya in Baan language. Now this Lemminkainen is not only making children with swan, he is also making children with what we call Disa, or stem mother. Now when Lemminkainen is making Disa pregnant, there come out 4 possibilities. Either it's a boy or it's a girl. If it's a boy and he is good to be father, he is called Rabi. And if he is not good to be father, he is called one Nar. He is in the information system. If it's a girl and she is good to be a mother, she becomes a new Disa, who in the future, again with Lemminkainen, is making Rabi, Nar, Disa, or when she is not good to be mother, she becomes Sienere. She becomes in the information system on the female side. Now, this is a second class of people called Roos-et. So we have now Piruet and Roos-et, who we call Aser, who live inside Udenma, who speak root language. Now this Aser, they start to create what we call Baner, people who live outside of Udenma, in the ringlands surrounding Udenma, going over all this bowl, all this planet. And these ringlands consist of 3 classes of people, Jaal-et, Kaal-et and Trail-et. Now the Rabi is going out from Udenma to one ringland, and now the Rabi is making children with the Jaal-et woman. And now from Rabi and Jaal woman is coming out one boy or one girl, which will be either one Jaal man or one Jaal woman in the future. Now this Jaal man, he is again making children with Kaar woman. And from this Jaal man and Kaar woman is coming out either one boy or one girl, one Kaal man or one Kaal woman in the future. And now this Kaal man, in his turn, is making children with Trail woman. And from Kaal man and Trail woman is coming out either one Trail boy or one Trail girl. Now the Trail boy, they didn't have right to make children, so there it stopped. So in that way we get 5 classes of people, Piruet, Roos-et, inside Udenma, and Jaal-et, Kaal-et, Trail-et, outside Udenma, where every Trail man or woman could say that my father is one Kaar. Every Kaar man and woman could say my father is one Jaal. Every Jaal man and woman could say my father is one Rabi. And the Rabi, he could say that he is the son of Lemminkainen through Disa. So in that way we had one Alfather. We had one man who was father to all people on the planet through this swan, who we call in the mythology Matar also. Ma means earth and Tar means the woman, so she is the earth mother. So through the earth mother we were, and the Ukko, the father, we were all people in one system coming from one original sperm.
So it was all totally arranged by birth or by judgments of the group, so to say, whether you could be a father or a mother.
Yeah, it was the highest thing you could be in the heathen time, was for one man to be father and for one woman to be mother. But we had to go through one procedure which is going according to all kinds of nature phenomena, which create the situation whether you was really good enough to be father or to be mother.
Do you think this breeding system really existed, or is it just a story?
No, I think it really existed. It is the only... The story talks about such an enormous time span that it is the only realistic way that we still can be in life today. I think otherwise we would have been dying out already a long time ago.
Why do you think that? If people would have gotten children spontaneous, without rules and without the right by birth, do you think it would have been different?
Yeah, because this story starts with the beginning, and the beginning is that we are getting one man and one woman on the planet in the creation of the human being, and that from this man and this woman, this Sampo and this Aino, this Frey and Freya, we are getting from them all other people on the planet. Now everybody in that way is born from the sperm of this Frey or this Sampo through this Aino. So if there would go something wrong with that original sperm that existed from where all people are born, they had of course to take care of it. And there is one enormous story explaining that side, that how, in which way they took care of the sperm, how they respected it, so that we had in one natural, logical way the possibility to continue as one race of human being on the planet.
So this whole system of I always forget the name, this Lemminkainen,
yes.
Lemminkainen. That from there lots of children were born and lots of new families or new rings were formed outside of this Udema. What I found fascinating to hear is that your Bock says that in all this time, all these people who lived outside of Udema, that from time to time they would come back here to the big temple of Lemminkainen, the figure Lemminkainen, and bring their valuables and all the aesthetics, as he calls it, to chambers, and that these chambers actually exist today, that they can be found.
Yes, after he started with the story in 1984, he started to create the foundation to this story, this main line of the story. And from there we come to the year 1987, when he had the right to start to open this, what we call, or what is called Lemminkainen temple.
This right according to what the family told him?
Yes, it is one temple that is closed in the year 987. And 987 it was said that that Bock who lives after 1,000 years, he has the right to open this temple. Now that happens to be evil. He can't do nothing for that. He has to go take out this information as it has been transferred within his family. So from 1987 we have been starting to reopen Lemminkainen temple, which was sealed in the year 987. This temple is one creation from before ice time, where the people in these different ringlands that exist around the planet in appreciation for this Allfather, or this system of creating the people on the planet, were making the most beautiful handicraft or aesthetic, where the most beautiful of the objects they created in their specific ringlands were sent up to Oudenma in appreciation for this system during the lifetime of one Lemminkainen. Now we get many Lemminkainens in this system, and every time when one Lemminkainen becomes Ukko, when he becomes Wijnemeulen, when his 12th son is taking over his job, all these objects become sent from these different ringlands to the next Lemminkainen. They become sent to the castle of Ra and Maya in Rasapuri, which is about 80-90 kilometers west of Helsinki. Today you can still see the ruins. And from this castle they bring these objects, when this new period of Lemminkainen starts, to this Lemminkainen temple, where they are creating one chamber for each Lemminkainen, where they are putting in this most beautiful handicraft aesthetic, what has been sent up in appreciation for him, and now it becomes put in Lemminkainen temple. And in front of the door to this chamber they are putting one life-size statue from this Lemminkainen. And now it continues the second period, and they make another room, and a third room, and a fourth room, and a fifth room. So slowly in the paradise time, before ice time, they create this Lemminkainen temple here in the south of Finland, about 30 kilometers east from Helsinki.
And so this temple, according to the saga, was cut out of granite inside of Oudenma.
Yeah, it is constructed within the bedrock. We have the natural phenomena from the middle to the south part of Finland, going over to Estonia, east direction Leningrad, west direction Stockholm. That whole this area is out of massive granite. So here they had the possibility, because there are no earthquakes in this area, no volcanoes, there is the physical possibility was existing for them to, within this massive granite, create this Lemminkainen temple.
But what material did they have? How could they do it? I mean, granite, you need dynamite or something like that.
No, it's made by hand. This whole temple is made by hand. But you can crack granite by using fire and water. There are all kinds of systems of how you can work within the rock, no? So I'm sure that we will find out about how they exactly did it when we are opening this temple, because it's one subject what we have not really been talking about.
So now we are 89, and for 2 years your Bock and the Positive Foundation, consisting of all these people supporting him, now the time is there that you all expect something big to happen, because there's big machines here and you have uncovered part of something which could be an entrance to something.
Yeah, we got specific information on how this temple was closed. The whole area has been looking very different here 1,000 years ago, and there is existing this mountain which, with this Etterstupa and the sundial rock, and the story tells of how we come from this mountain via one roadway down to the entrance of this temple. This roadway was blocked with stone slices. We took them up, we started to take them up 2 years ago in the summer. We took up the roadway last year. Also already 2 years ago we come to that point that we are down to the bedrock, and we found one big stone slice closing the entrance to the temple. So of course when we blew that one away, we were sure that now we can walk in just like that. But of course there was one other parallel shaped rock block behind the first one. So we were sure that when we blow that one away we get in. No, still there was more stuff there. So we come to one granite room which has one bedrock roof and one bedrock floor. And this granite room is filled with a kind of grey petrified mass which they have been sealing the basic entrance of this temple with. And now the story tells that from when we take out all this, we will come to one staircase that leads down to one round room. And this round room is full of water. They have made one water lock to hermetically seal this temple. So when we pump away the water from this round room, we will come to 3 corridors, the middle one of which we can walk up to the cupola of the temple, and the 2 on the sides which are used for air conditioning. And in that way we can then walk up to one metal door which is in front of the cupola to the temple, and from the cupola this temple is constructed cone form, in a form of a cone down into the earth, into the granite.
Wow. With how many more or less rooms?
I don't know, they say that there should be more rooms there for this landing island than there are people in Finland existing today. And there are about 5 million people here, so let's see. Yeah.
I have one more question, and that is, in this whole breeding system, it was very important that sperm from one particular person would get together with the egg cell of certain women. Do you think there is something set in history about this whole thing, or is it actually through the Bocksaga for the first time that this information comes out?
That I am not sure about at all. There are probably existing different stories that when we really know about it, we probably suddenly realize, but here they are basically saying that, and here they are basically saying that, no? But it's because we don't live with this concept anymore that we don't become reminded about it. So it has been completely evaporated from the brain. It's not existing in our understanding of today. So it is really belonging to one period in the history about which we know very, very little. Because the heathen time people were not writing, so we don't really know how these people lived in that time and on what principles and what understanding of nature they created their continuation.
Wow, it's beautiful information.
Let's see.
That's great.
Yeah, let's see.
Well, did it change your life to hear about this saga?
Yeah, it did in one form, because I could never imagine in my life that I'm starting to listen to some mythology of a human being on the planet that lived before ice time. And on what principles and system this whole thing was based. It was completely based on the nature. They took all their examples from the nature, something what we obviously don't do today anymore. We are not living anymore as part of the nature. I could never imagine that. I could never imagine that before I start to listen to this Wijnen mythology. Yeah, it was not existing in my brain either, such an idea.
Do you think that people today, they can learn something from this saga?
I think we can get one understanding about where we come from and who we are. And that's very important, I think.
How big do you see the percentage of reality in the saga? How much reality do you think is in it?
I think it's 100% reality, because it is based on the nature and on one sound system that is still existing today on the planet. One language spoken here in Oedenma, which is based on these 29 sounds, from where they created this other language, which we call the Vaan language, or Finnish language, which was before ice time spoken by all people on the planet. Now this Vaan language is based on the same sounds as the root language, but they are arranged in a different order, which make this Vaan language to be much larger than this root language. Now under the ice time they created, we came into new circumstances on this planet. We get ice, through that we need also to get agriculture, which you didn't really need in the tropical time. We start to get all kinds of arctical domestic animals, so we get all kinds of new life form on the planet, for which they created one new language called the English language, which is a combination of this root and Baan language. You can find it out when you get into the subject. So this whole story basically goes in the sounds of these three languages, root, Finnish and English, which still exist today. And when you go with the sound system into this language, you can make an enormous discovery about nature and the human being in the nature.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Yeah.
Well,
after the interview with Michel, my head was spinning. It was not only the information I got from him, but also I had a short talk with Mr. Bock. Also I talked with a lot of people who were visiting him. I heard everybody talk about the temple and about this breathing system. And I just decided that I would like to find out what scientists think about this whole thing. I phoned the National Museum in Helsinki and I got time to have an interview with Mr. Torsten Edgren, Director of the Archaeological Department.
you have heard about the Bocksaga as it is told by Mr. Bock. What is your opinion about this whole story?
Well, as far as I know, there is no reality in it at all, because we have been told about Mr. Bock's ideas for many, many years about his excavations east of Helsinki, where he tried to find the so-called Wijnen temple. But in my opinion, there is no reality in it at all.
The fact that this whole thing has started in a kind of paradise, which was located in Helsinki. Is there any proof that there was a tropical climate at any point here in this area?
Well, you can see from about 10,000 before present up to about 100,000 years ago, the whole Finland was covered by a very thick ice, as thick as the inland ice in Greenland for the moment. And it has destroyed every sign of a, so to say, tropical climate before that. There hasn't been any people at that moment in the whole country at all. So we don't have any proof of a tropical climate at all. And let's say 3,000 years ago, the whole Helsinki area was just underwater, starting to rise up from the Baltic.
Okay. This Lemminkainen is a figure which is known in the Scandinavian country as some mythological figure.
Well, perhaps not in the whole Scandinavia. We have this old Finnish folk poem, Kalevala, very well known, collected by Elias Lönnrot 150 years ago among people in the eastern part of Finland. It was an old oral tradition, and Lemminkainen is a very central hero in this poem, and so you can say that he's very well known in Finland. He has been studied by artists. Sibelius wrote some music which was devoted to Lemminkainen, and so on. So he's a very well-known person in Finland, but not in Scandinavia as far as I know, because the Scandinavian mythology is of, so to say, Western Euro origin, but the Finnish Kalevala is just something extremely Finnish, typical Finnish poem.
In the story of Mr. Bock, this Lemminkainen's main responsibility is to make sure that certain women would get pregnant in the right way with the right sperm line, as Mr. Bock calls it. Is there anything like that in this mythology also?
As far as I know, there isn't anything of such kind, but I must admit I'm not specialized in this Kalevala. I have heard about Kalevala, as I think most people in Finland already from the school. We have had been told of Lemminkäinen and Wijnen and many other heroes from the Kalevala, but I haven't heard anything about that kind of that way to be pregnant, so to say.
The expectation of Mr. Bock is that there on Gumbostrand there is the entrance to this enormous temple which, according to him, got dug out in the granite. And he's speaking about a system of storage rooms in the order of 5 million different rooms. Would there be any possibility, say before Ice Age, that people went in there, made holes in the granite and stashed their valuables there?
No. It's just pure Finnish solid granite. And I must say already the figure about 5 million you said, 5 million rooms, that's nonsense. Nonsense, pure nonsense.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Just a nickname. My baby brothers made that up. Baby.
So we are standing here in front of Ertestupa. With Bibi. Bibi is a neighbor. She lives in the surrounding here. And I want to ask her a couple of questions. So what do you think of this whole story, this Bocksaga?
Oh, past these 3 years, I've been thinking this and that, and that's a big question. Is there anything, or is it just damage, nature damage? At this moment, I think it's just damage. The temple should be looked for inside you. It's not here. That's my...
So you think it's all nonsense and it's just
Well, it's not nonsense. It's searching for our roots and the better living. Search for truth.
Do you give it any chance that there's something physical, like part of a temple or some kind of remnants of that old time?
I couldn't say. I couldn't really say. No, it's a lot of personal feelings too, because it's my neighborhood, my neighbors, and it touched me.
According to this Bocksaga, the origin of all people were one twin brother and sister, and they were Finnish.
No.
How would you feel about that?
No, my mind tells me it can't be. It can't be.
And this hidden mythology where the Bocksaga talks about, did you hear that in any other way, ever in school or in another form?
Oh, sure. You've heard the sagas and from different mythologies and different national stories. Saga. We have a national saga, you could call it. It's the names are from there and some happenings, and I think it's the saga is brought from all over the world into this Bocksaga. This is what I think.
So what are you going to say if they indeed find something? Will you be happy? Or?
Well, I'll say wow.
Okay. Me too. I'm going to say wow.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been the question all the time, the past 3 years following this.
I think nobody had expected that this would be going down like this, huh?
Wow, when you think of it, when it started, a group of guys, I think there were 3, I went for my evening walk, coming down the road here from my house up there. And they came with small buckets and showers and told me this story.
You could, like, good.
I was amazed, just looked at them and we became friends, you know. People changed and some of them been the same over the time, but you know. Then came the machines and so they, I don't know, just thinking they began with showers, buckets, and now it's this big, 10 meters down. And
the Bock. I haven't said this to you before, but I really want to tell you how impressed I am with your patience to over and over tell this story to people who are curious and want to know, and no matter what you're doing, you always immediately jump up and again you tell the story. So how did you get all this information?
It's one tradition in the family that we who has titles in our family, we get 20 years education. That means that we are only listening. With listening we learn all these things. I've been getting this from my mother and my sister. My mother Rea Bockström and my sister Rakel Bockström. They in their turn get it from my father Knut Victor Bockström and my father's sister Kristina Victoria Bockström. In that way they had to listen 20 years, my father and his sister, and they transferred it for 20 years to my mother and my sister, and my mother and my sister transferred it to me. From 1949, when I became 7 years, I had to sit here in this room to listen and listen and listen. The whole mythology with their different figures who made the history of this story.
And that is the so-called Wijnen mythology.
The Wijnen mythology, what is the whole thing based on.
Now, this temple, they have been telling you exactly where this temple was, this Lemminkainen temple, and also that it was closed at some point, and what you could expect to find. So, can you give the idea what you expect? What was the story?
To listen to this mythology, it gives one thing into the brain, one understanding. And understanding is about the old breeding system, what has been existing on this planet. And when you understand that we had one father to all people on the planet. In this, what we've been explaining, pirouette, rosette, inside in Odenma, and jar ett, kar ett, trail ett, outside of Odenma.
Like five different
states, caste.
And from that, these five different castes, or actually the three different castes from the outside, they have actually created this temple here in Odenma?
Yes, because Ukko, what is the main figure, and Akka. Ukko masculine and Akka feminine. From this Ukko Akka we can understand that Ukko Akka is the father and mother to the king and the queen. And people was bringing up gifts, aesthetic, to appreciate Ukko and Akka through the king and the queen. So the king and queen's castle become, we can nearly say, full of aesthetic, bring up by the rabbis, who was going all to their particular ringlands, and the rabbi was also an allfather in his ringland, because the rabbi was the father of the jar et, and jar et is the father to the kar et, and kar et is the father to the trail et. So actually for every generation of Ukko, they've been giving the appreciating thing, aesthetic, for the system. So they bring up this thing to the castle, and every time when Ukko go away from the planet, they'll be making one chamber inside in the Kypelivuori to put in all these things. And when he go away, Ukko, he can for the last time see one chamber of all these things what bringed up in his bare jord, because he was the breeder, Lemminkäinen, when he was young.
So you say Ukko Akka is like, say, Adam and Eve?
No.
No.
No. No. Ukko Akka, Lemminkäinen, Joutsen, Seppo, Ilmarinen, Maija, and Sampo and I. Every man was Sampo. Every man wanted to reach Sampo, all the ideals, all the good, what exists inside in the man. Aino was the same, the woman, she was Aino, so she wanted to reach to be one good woman, one Aino. That means that every woman is one Aino and every man is one Sampo. So Sampo and Aino is the people of the planet, the masculine and the feminine. Now, in the system to appreciate, they bring up this thing, and when Ukko is leaving, Ukko is anyway the father of all in the system, he could look back for his life to see the chamber full of all these things what was one appreciating of the system, of the breeding system. And he could see one statue from himself, 27 years old, when he was starting as a breeder, that's outside of every chamber. And that he could see by himself before he went to his Ettestupa, and he stupa down, he fall down, he leaving the planet. After they bring him up from the temple, through all this spiral, and they bring him out to the middle point of Kypelivuori, where they have the burning place. And there thousands of people could see the smoke coming up from their Ukko. After they take all the ash together and they put it in what we call one uks pung, and they filled this ash inside in the pung, who was bring to tuna, and tuna we have tuna kullen, it means one kulle, and there is standing one ash tree. Now the fylgia, what we call soul today, is going from the ash to the root of the ash tree, to the stem of the ash tree, to the branch of the ash tree, into the leaf. And now in form of sap, sav, mahla, we call it mahla in Vaan language, sav in Aas language, and sap in English. In form of sap, when the sun strålar, the rays from the sun from Oden is coming on the leaf, the sun is taking out akka or ukko from the leaf. So akka is leaving the leaf for the hole in the North Pole. And from the North Pole it went out from the hole E, and the hole E is the prick of Lemminkäinen, who is making this pirouette, roset, jarlet, garnet, tre. And in that way the soul went around and around.
So this Lemminkäinen, when he was older, he was called Ukko.
Yeah.
And he was actually the father of all, because he was the only one who was allowed to make the women pregnant.
Yeah. So in the system we can understand in the S per Ma, he is per, S is the sun, and Ma is like Oden Ma, the Oden Ma we stay now in. So in the sound we have S per Ma, sperma, and from sperma we all come. So Lemminkäinen, he is young, he become Lemminkäinen first when he is 27. And now he take the most beauty and most healthy woman on the planet. And he is making children with her, so from her sperm, from his sperm, is coming 7 daughters and 12 boys. The first daughter who reached the age of 27, she become automatically Maija, is in the sperm system. And the first boy who reached the age of 27, he become automatically Seppo Ilmarinen, the king, and Maija, the queen. They have no children at all. But the 12th one is the breeder in the family, so when he becomes 27, he takes one swan, one Jolsen, and she is getting 7 daughters, 12 boys, and again the 12th one become one new Lemminkäinen. And when one new Lemminkäinen come, the old Lemminkäinen become Ukko, and the old swan, the Jolsen, become Akka. So Akka is the Ma-tar, the Ma-mother, and Ukko is the Ma-father. He is the father to all these people who live in the paradise time.
What is paradise time?
Paradise time is one time 50 million, 10,005 years ago, according to our way of counting. This ball has had one other position. So we had tropical, and it was full of ring lands. So we had one ring in the top and 6 around, and all of these ring lands, who was of course on the land, they had one Ra, B, one son of one Disa. Lemminkäinen making children with the Disa, so it's coming out men and women from the Disa. And the men who were suitable to be fathers, they become Ra, B. And Rabi is going out to his ring land and making children with the Jarl woman, coming out Jarl men. The Jarl men making children with the Kar woman, coming out Kar men, and the Kar men making children with the Trail woman, coming out Trail men. But the Trail men was not allowed to make children, and that made the whole line that we had one father, one All-Father, we call him. He was father to Allah. A means Ukko, so Allah means actually the All-Father, Allah.
Wow.
In the storm system.
How did that go with the very first family?
The first family, we have the combination of the monkey and the nanny goat. The Apa in our root language is A-P-A, what consists of A-Aser, P-Pole and A-Apa. So we can see what is inside in the sound to make the A-P-A, Apa. The goat, it's one Yet, and now this Apa is making children with the Yet. And out come Sampu and Ainu in one language, and in our language we call it Frey and Freya. Frey was the first who had sperma, and we all come from Frey's sperma.
But, excuse me, but would you say that if today a monkey would fuck with a goat, we get again a twin brother and sister human?
No, we have something called one Uden thing, and this Uden thing has been happening. We start our story with one all we call it. It's like one snake. One all is in English language
eel.
One eel, and from one eel come one eel. But it's happened one Uden thing, so from one eel come one frog. And frog come frog, and from the frog come the monkey. The monkey and frog is swimming in the same way. That's the only thing we can actually prove it with, that we are swimming like the monkey, we are swimming like the frog. From monkey come monkey, and monkey making one child with one nanny goat, and calling Freya and Freya, who swim like the frog, the monkey.
So that was only one time it happened that way.
Yeah.
Then we had Frey and Freya,
Yeah.
the original man and woman, and then this breeding system started.
Then the breeding system started, and Frey make with his Freya, the only woman existing, 7 daughters and 12 boys. Maybe more, but in the system we must understand 7 and 12.
Or less? Is that possible? They make less children?
I don't think they make less, because anyway was the meaning for us to be more and more and more. But it's a logic behind the whole sperm system, where you can see how we growed up to be first a pirouette, after the creating the rose, the second cast inside in wooden mat. With the Disa, who get the child from Lemminkäinen sperm, and coming the Rabbi, who go out to his ringland and making yarlet, carlet, thread.
But how did these first people know to be so careful with creating other humans? Because that's what they actually were. It's more like an animal world where they say, where you see all the very young and healthy, they get together and they make new animals. And how did they know to restrict themselves, so to say, and to say, well, that person can have children and the other not?
I think the animal is choosing by intuition. Or they also maybe go in one fate, one karma, that they meet each other and they make children. I feel also the people has been having very strong something what we don't understand today, or maybe it's in the sperm, that this first sperm was anyway understanding to make it with his first swan, so the whole system could roll up.
And so you say these Freya and Freya, they knew it from instinct or from understanding?
From instinct, understanding.
And then later on, there was created in your mythology a whole information system so that all people knew how it was going.
Yeah, it's become one information system who was completely natural, with honest, based on honest, that I tell you, you tell her, and she tells somebody else. But according to honest, it was very honest system before, when we had no other thing than our own honest to base it on. Before we get the written thing, we was all transferring things to each other, of course in an honest way.
Now, the scientists say that it is impossible to keep a story alive according to the real actual happenings over, I don't know what they call it, 1,000 years or something like that. How is it possible for you to get all this family through your family lines of such an enormous time, and still that there is some reality in it? How is that to remember? How can it be?
I don't know how it could be, because I only listening and I couldn't actually understand it. But now I can understand it, because when after 1984 I become free to divide this thing also with other people. We have one example, Michel Merle, very good friend to me, who also started to listening, and today he can present the same, based on the same sound as me. He can do it exactly in the same way. So he has been doing it in only 3, 4, 5 years. But from 1984 we started, so he can today, without that I am even in the room, I can trust him. I can trust that he is explaining it in exactly the same way as he's been hearing it from me and understanding it from me.
And this is all because the whole story, together with the whole story, you explain a system which is based on the alphabet and which keeps the story in some frame of reality.
Yes. The alphabet is maybe for an outsider listener beginning, it must sound very funny. But when you start to get deep in the sound system, you start to slowly understand that we have one meaning in the root language, the language of still living in the archipelago here. People who has one other alphabet, we have example 9 clear sound. If we take the sound A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V. We start from A and end with V actually, and X, U, Z, O, R, U. That sounds of course crazy. Of course, I can understand it. But when you go through it, and every sound has, you can divide it in 9 clear sound. A, E, I, U, U, Y, O, A, Ö. And the other is combination with E what is the oak tree we all belong to, the big oak tree. The tree is actually symbolic, but we belong to a sound. Now from there we have A is clear, B is B and E, C is C and E, D is D and E, F is E and F, G is G and E, H with O, H and O, E is the clear sound, Y is Y and E, Y, Ho, E, Y, Ko. Ko is Ko and O, L is E and L, M is E and M, N is E and N, U is Uden, P is P and E, Q is Ko and U, R is A and R, S, there is a S, only we have S sound, A and S, T and E, U is clear, and V and E, V. X, Y, zeta, O, Ö is outside of the ring. So we start with E actually in the top, what is the W, and we get E, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, I, A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, I, A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V. And now every sound has one fixed meaning.
Every sound.
So, so we have Aser, and Aser is the people who live inside in Udenma. They are all Aser, and their head is Ukko, what is also A sound. So A is very heavy, very strong.
It's actually the original group of people on this earth,
yeah.
Or their land.
Their land. So A give one association of Aser. B is Bori, Bu, R, G, Bu, and again it's U and B, Udensborg. Bu, R is Ra, and G means giving. Bori, A, Aser, B, Bori, C, share Ra. Ra is Ra, and you share the Ra, become share Ra. A, Aser, B, Bori, C, share, D, dag. Ek. That's the oak tree we all belong to. What is all this combination in this sound system with the E? So E is very high, like A, E, and I, and U, and U, and Y. All this clear sound is all more high. So A, Aser, B, Bori, C, Kära, D, dag, E, ek, F, frö. And from frö you can put one frö in the ground, and come the strålar from the frö, and come up one straw, and you take one skär Ra, and you share the straw, and you can make one straw bock. What is the symbol here of Lemminkäinen? A, Aser, B, Borg, C, Kära, D, dag, E, ek, F, frö, G, grund. G is grund, but G means also giving. I gave you, and you gave me. So G means giving. A, Aser, B, Borg, C, Kära, D, dag, E, ek, F, frö, G, grund, H, hell. Hell is the middle point of Udenma, and from hell all the sperm went out all over the planet. Hell is also our home. A, Aser, B, Borg, C, Kära, D, dag, E, ek, F, frö, G, grund, H, hell, I. Now from I come the sperm, and Ukko has the I, and Lemminkäinen has the I, but actually all men has one I, and from I come the sperm. A, Aser, B, Borg, C, Kära, D, dag, E, ek, F, frö, G, grund, H, hell, I, J, jarlar, and J has also to do with J, va, giving. So J is also one giving sound, J. A, Aser, B, Borg, C, Kära, D, dag, E, ek, frö, G, grund, H, hell, J, jarlar, K, karlar.
This outside car.
That's this outside, jarl et, kar et. So we have J and K, and L is the lag, the law, the logic. So L, when you see the L in the combination, it has to do with the law and the logic. The nature law is the logic. A serbe bori se kära de dag, eke fröge grund ho hell, i jarlar ko karlar lag måne, måne, and måne is the moon, and Seppo Maya, the king and queen, is representing the moon. A serbe bori se kära de dag, eke fröge grund ho hell, i jarlar ko karlar lag måne, nord kär nan. The North Star. And the North Star is also in the sperm, and the North Star is the pole star, who is in the top of the pole, is the pole star. Så serbe bori se kära de dag eke fröge grund ho hell i jarlar ko karlar lag måne nordstjärnan Oden. And that's of course the sun. But the sun is the sun. This is the S is the sun, but O is Oden. So Oden is actually one different thing. Oden is the sun. But there is two. There is S and O who is representing the sun. Oden. Serbe bor se kära de dag eke fröge grund ho hell i jarlar ko karlar lag måne nordstjärnan Oden P Polen. From we have North Pole and South Pole, and from the pole come also the sperma. Sperma come from the pole.
Because the people who
the people, we have many people on the planet, and we come from the pole of the P. The P is the circle, so you can see in the mathematics the circle is the P, and that's Oden and people. Many people on the planet, many per son of Per. Because Per was anyway the highest. Per, Sant Per vid nyckeln, vid the key. Serbe bor se kära de dag eke fröge grund, ho hell i jarlar ko karlar lag måne nordstjärnan Oden P Polen Q kvadrat. Now Q means one ring with one pole in the middle who make the shadow. So you can see the mark Q, and it has to do with mathematik, with the kvinna. Because the original early woman has been one kvinna. Today is only the queen, the wife of the king. In England, but you call her woman in England, but the original is kvinna. Serbe bor se kära de dag eke fröge grund ho hell i jarlar ko karlar lag måne nordstjärnan Oden P Polen Q kvadrat Ra. And Ra is in the king's sperm. And from the king's sperm it go out in one divan system, but Ra was very high because Ra is one part of sperma. Serbe bor se kära de dag eke fröge grund ho hell i jarlar ko karlar lag måne nordstjärnan Oden P Polen Q kvadrat Ra solen. And so is len. Solen is the sun in root language. Serbe bor se kära de dag eke fröge grund ho hell i jarlar ko karlar lag måne nordstjärnan Oden P Polen Q kvadrat Ra solen T Tor. And Tor, we had one Tor system, 2 women Tor and 2 men Tor. We have Tor's hammer, every man has Tor's hammer. What is the most sensitive place on the man, and the woman has klitor, I-S, O become O, that's called clitoris. So we can see clitoris come from the old sensitive, they only said the most sensitive place on the woman is clitoris, and the most sensitive on the man is the Tor's hammer's head. Serbe bor se kära de dag eke fröge grund ho hell i jarlar ko karlar lag måne nordstjärnan Oden P Polen Q kvadrat Ra solen T Tor ursprung. That's ursprung like one fontaine. ursprung is the original. A aser, B borg, C skära, D dag, E ek, F frö, G grund, H häll, I, J jarlar, K karlar, L lag, M måne, N nordstjärnan, O Oden, P Polen, Q kvadrat, R ra, S solen, T tor, U ursprung, V vaner. And vaner is the people who live outside of Odenma, so A aser is the people inside in the ringland Odenma, and V vaner is the people outside in the ringlands outside of Odenma. So we start with A and end with vaner. Outside is X, means the oak trees, X, X. Y is the Yggdrasil, the all-living tree. Yggdrasil, very well known in other mythology, the tree Yggdrasil, what is the ash tree. X, Y, C, ta, is the flash between two people, Zeta. O, Ä, Ö is three clear sound, what has different combination. Now this tell you one story, and if you're really listening now, you can get the story about E. We start with E, what is the W, E, and W is also like one Q, one prick in the middle, and two bockhorn on the both side, the tresol, the sol, trädet, the tresol, the tre is the tree, 1, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, and sol is the sun. So tresol is one high symbol. What is for Ukko, for Lemminkäinen, for Zeus, for Jupiter, etc., etc. We can see the tresol, the trident, I think you call it in English. But E, Asernas borg, C, dagen, ekens, frös grund, häll. I, jarlarnas, karlarnas lag. Månen, nordstjärnan, Oden, Polen, kvadraten. Ras, sol, tor. Ursprungets vaner I. And this tells one story, and when you understand this story, you understand how this story is based on this funny sound.
Now it's amazing because the last time when you said it, I heard that it was a story. But this is because I speak Swedish, which is like very close.
Yeah, because Swedish come from Odenma, it's come over to Sweden, the root language in a little bit different singing form, and it go to Norway, and outside of Norway we have the big island called England, where also blue and green iced Arctical people are. So the English also is going out in the history from Odenma to the west and ended up in England, and from England they spread it all over the planet, so we can all communicate, you and me, with English.
If we learn the original meaning of the alphabet.
No, without alphabet we can all speak English. But it's anyway based on the root and these root sounds.
This Freya, you say they're also the Ur-father and Ur-mother of
the human being.
Let's say the people in Africa.
Yeah.
Because they look very much different than we do.
Yeah. That has one story in the mythology that when this pole changed, we get the ice time and the north part become covered by ice. And now there was 10 Ra B who become like kings. So we get 10 king system where the first son become the king when the king died. Different than in Odenma, and all other sons become dukes. Now we have duke in England, one area with one duke, and he is making the earl woman pregnant, and it goes down in the exactly same way.
But how, from the color, if you think, how can then be the people in Africa, they have a black skin, how can they come from
from a Freya and Freya, which looked a little bit like you or me, maybe, or more like you.
Now, if you look the outlook of we people on the planet, we have the Arctical people with the blue and green eyes, and we have the tropical people with the brown and black eyes. They are all 10 different tropical, and when you look at those people, we have 10 different outlook. You can see the Peking people in China. They look really different than the children of Narkasul, what is in Hindustan, and the children of Zeus and Jupiter. We can divide them and see that in the Mediterranean we have a little bit different outlook of people. We see the Necros people in Africa. The Necros people must have had one allfather who created this thing, and we go over to the Red Indian in today America, and we see that they also look different. So we have actually 11 different outlooks of people from the nature. 10 outside, tropical, and from actually 1 Arctical, coming Sven and Dan, Svenskarar and Danskarar, the Karar of Sven and Karar of Dan, who created Uppsala with 1 breeding center, and Jylland, the Danish. And from Denmark we get out to this Europe, what we call it today, and we get England with 2 roses, the red rose and the white rose, and both of these roses had feel that they was kings, and from there we get the button of roses.
That's amazing. Well, of course, it's fascinating. Great.
Now you're on this level, and they took out this stuff, what they call stoned mass, which is not so hard as granite. They started 2 years ago. And then they dug like about 10 meters. I'll go and stand there and show you what was the level of this is like the granite. You can also see there the lines of the earth. That's how much they dug out. And then for the area from here, this is like this granite, which could be like casual steps, it goes a bit like this, then it goes down a bit here, and here, 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 here. This goes down. So the expectation was this is actually slowly, the staircase that is started there. Here it continues, here it continues, here it goes down, and more down, and down, and more down. And so it's like a gradual all the way in there.
Maybe later.
To find. You expect to find anything?
You expect Golden Church.
Yes, with Lemminkäinen.
Yeah.
The Akkada is there.
How much you know about the saga?
I know quite much, but my English is not...
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's great.
Do you understand the alphabet?
Yes. Yes, I'm sure there's something. There's something with the world.
This temple, where now the digging is happening for, you found it because there was this big rock called Ertestupa, which was talked about in the mythology as the place where the old woman, the Akka, died. Right? And so
What is the story? What do you expect to find? What kind of temple? How does it look like? I mean, there's now this road going down, and then there's like all this rock, and then what?
The temple has one cupool, and from this cupool they started to make these chambers. It means that the first chamber, the second, the third is starting to go in one spiral down in the bedrock. And the bottom of this place is always round. So for every chamber they make the spiral to go down more deep and deep, who make that the floor always is one big ring, who become deeper, deeper, deeper down in the ground.
So there is like in the rock itself, in the granite solid rock, there is a round roof, so to say.
Yeah, one round roof, what is also the air condition, because from this round roof, or the cupool, go 3 channels down to one round room, and this round room you can fill up with water. And when you fill up this round room with water, the 3 channels who lead to the cupool become closed, and that we call water lock. So they had to take out the water, and they get these 3 channels who opened by itself, and the middle channel, the middle gong, is called corridor, and that means that there must be rooms on both sides, otherwise in our language is only one gong. So if you have one gong, it's one gong, but if it has doors on all sides, both sides become one corridor, and the middle one is one corridor, and the 2 other one is for the air condition. So when they blew in the wind in through the opening of the temple where we are just now in our digging, the air will go to the round room, where the air is in the round room turning up like in 1.5 channels to the cupool, and down from the cupool the air go out in 1.5 way down to the round room and out. It's the same like the nose with your mouth. It's also 3 holes in the human being, and in the same way this temple is constructed.
And then next to this round room there is the storage places, which every generation made for their ur-mother and ur-father.
That is in the spiral who go down from the cupool, but the corridor has rooms on both sides, what is used for different ceremonies.
Aha. And this amount of storage rooms. I've heard it before, but can you say it again? The amount of storage rooms which you expect to find?
I can't say how many there are. I know there are thousands and thousands, but if we have only one, and that means that the ice time was 50 million years, and the paradise time was more than this ice time. So it means that more than 50 million, we can say 100 million years of the time of the history of the planet was belonged to the paradise time. And pa is asanas pole, ra is asanas ra, para, dis, we have disor, so paradise et. It say itself in sound that it's one time in the history of this planet. And we call it paradise in English, and we call paratisi in Van language. So when we compare the Van language, the Ars language, and the English, we can find out that it must be, because it's all 3 languages, has the paradise, paratisi, and paradise et.
So the story goes that it has all the information up to the paradise time, to the time before the ice time.
The time before ice time, for every generation of Allfather, they had been making one chamber what is full of these gifts giving up to appreciating the system of sperma.
If this story, what you have been telling, if this story is true, it will be a complete revolution.
One complete understanding, I think. Understanding that we had different periods in the history of the planet. And these periods will be coming up to the light when we get into this temple.
Now imagine that this, what you say, is all true. Say that the temple is found and you can actually really see with your own eyes that there's this remnants of old times there. What do you expect that people will say about that? How do you think people will react?
Of course people will be surprised, but it will be making one situation that they all want to know what is based on, and that means that maybe many brains want to take the alphabet to understand what they've been seeing in the TV. The plan is that this temple will not be one tourist attraction. We are not selling ticket to the temple. We have a plan that one photograph can take one chamber, and this photograph can by photo take out this to the planet. That one photograph he can concentrate on one chamber and taking out the beauty. We take one thing, when you take it by photo, you can see it from different angles, you can see the handicraft in a different way, especially when it's become explained for the people who look the object. And in that way, one thing can give more than you look at 1,000 things by yourself. Now every photograph can get one chamber and he can present it individual photograph by themselves, and in that way we can see the inside of the temple in the future in our television system on the planet.
Do you think it will be beneficial for people to find out these things?
What is beneficial?
Good.
Of course
helpful.
It's good. Of course it's good. It helps one understanding, because from the past we can build one future. From the past we can build up one future of understanding.
Wow. I'm very, very happy with the information you have been giving me, and I hope you don't have to wait too long in this cold weather to see that it's all there. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your interest to spread this thing in your way, with my words, who is my parents' word.
Of listening to Ior Bock, to Michel Merle, to all the people visiting there on Kumbo Strand. It's all a possibility. And my conclusion is, if you really want to find out more, you have to get a little bit into linguistics. Therefore, at the end of this compilation of a visit to Ior Bock, one more time, Mr. Ior Bock and his alphabet. One more time, would you just say the alphabet so that maybe I get the story?
Say one time the alphabet.
Yes. Like, you know, you did it already yesterday, before.
You mean the story in the alphabet?
The story in the alphabet, yeah.
Ah. E. E means actually inside.
Yeah.
So E. Asernas Borg.
In the castle of Aser.
Se. Dagen.
You see the day.
Ekens frös grund.
And the ground of the seed of the oak tree.
Hell.
Hell.
Whole.
I jaarlarnas, kaarlarnas, lag.
Lag in the law of the jarls and the carls.
Månen,
The moon, or the mouth moon.
månen Nordstjärnan.
The North Star.
Orden,
The land.
orden.
The ring.
It's a ring, it's everything, it's the sun.
The sun.
Yeah, it's the sun. Uden is the sun. Uden is one ring, and the moon is ring one time a month. So it's full moon, and the sun is always one ring. So it go up and down, it's never changed, it's always same. And the moon was giving mark to the people of the planet, because it's different changing. Så i Asernas se dagen, ekens frös grund häll, i jarlarnas, karlarnas lag, månen, Nordstjärnan, orden, pålen, kvadraten,
Mathematic, the woman.
the ring with the pole in the middle making one shadow, cutting the mark of the cube. Kvinna, the woman was kvinna, with cup. So kvinna. It was something else than woman we use today in the language. So they could catch that there has been emancipation before. We are saying in Hindistan where they had Lakshman and Saraswati. And one time they took away Saraswati and become one new figure called Lakshmi. So they must have been having one change there because they wanted to have this Laks. You can see it. It's very funny, this Lakshmi coming in India. To change the figure, the ideal, you could change to a new woman, to a new queen. Okej, i Asernas borg, se dagen, ekens frös grund hem, i jarlarnas, karlarnas lag, månen, Nordstjärnan, orden, pålen, kvadraten. And now come new Ras-Sur-Tur. Ras-Sur-Tur.
Ras-Sur-Tur. Ras, sun or moon later.
Ras-Sur-Tur.
Sun, Tur, friend or heart.
There is this combination.
Ras-Sur-Tur.
Ras-Sur-Tur. There is what we call Kela. Ras-Sur-Tur. Ursprunget svanar i.
The origin of the Vanas, of the friends living around, and the prick.
Ursprunget svanar i. That means that the Van people come from the east. We tell them in the entrance that actually you all come from the east. Especially they say the Van come from the east.
And DE meaning the prick of the Bock, of the lemminkainen, of that special person in the breathing system.
In the paradise time we have this E, or this lemminkainen, so he is the breathing, Disa, the Disa figure, so it's called Disa is his 30 day. It's ceremony in 30 days. one Disa and one Ra in the system. So you have Disa, because Sa means get, and D is D. So Disa is 30 days. So it's one ceremony what they had, who all could understand it in a way to understand what Disa means. Now Disa, en Disa, flera Disa. One Disa, many Disa.
But for the drinking of the sperm, for the woman who wanted to get pregnant, it was not important that it was the same sperm as the one who would make her pregnant later on.
Oh yes, only here in Udenmark was different. Only here with Lemminkäinen, because Lemminkäinen had to make so many children, so they should have been drinking in the end. Yeah. So that means that one Ravi from all of these Finlands get the honor to go in the temple with Lemminkäinen in the divan, and after he can come out and give 30 days to one Disa.
So the Ravi, he changes or he drinks the sperm of Lemminkäinen?
He changes it with Lemminkäinen in the temple.
And then he's like blessed to be the father of child.
Yeah, in that way he gave 30 days, and after she been drinking 30 days, she goes to Freyskär on the Meridian line, and there is called the shot. So there he
on a certain time.
Yeah, they have this 30 days period. There is this 30 days, and that's in whole this numerology here.
1 month.
Yeah, 1 month. One månad, one kalendermånad. It is kalender. There is almanacka and kalender.
Ra, Sol, Tur.
Yeah, Ra, Sol, Tur. Ursprungsvärden I. Så vi tänker. I Asanas-borg.
In the castle of Asana.
Se dagen.
You see the day.
Ekens frös grund.
The ground of the seed of the oak tree.
Hell.
Helsinki, the hole.
I
the prick of the Lemminkäinen.
Jarlarnas, karlarnas lag.
According to the law of the Jarls and the Karls.
Jarlarnas, karlarnas lag. Månen.
Is the moon.
Ja. Månen.
Morning.
Månen. That's the moon.
And mouth.
And mouth. And moon has two sides, one dark and one in light. And Seppo Maija is both representing the moon. So the king and queen is representing the moon. So they are giving out the mark to the planet, how we was doing according to the moon. So that's the moon. I Asanas-borg se dagen ekens frösgrund hell. I jarlarnas, karlarnas lag, månen. After we come to nord, skär, nan. Nord, skär, nan. North star, pole star. Because we have the pole with the ball, and on this pole, also from the pole comes the sperm, from the ball comes the sperm to the ball, and it's from this ball all these systems, pilvenhuuset ja alle kahdet.
And so the North Star is the star
just straight up. So you always could see that under this star is Valhalla.
So that they would not forget.
Yeah, you could see the North Star, is just over the pole, and just in the hole of the pole is Valhalla.
The old pole.
Yeah, the old North Pole. Okay, it was before the pole, when the pole was straight. Yeah. Now it's here. Yeah. So it has been shifting. But anyway, it's there. So I Asanas-borg. Now Asanas-borg is also the 7 islands, because Helsingin is has 7 hills around with 7 temples. And outside of Helsinki is 7 islands, with the middle islands Odensö with Lyssnarberget, Kuunteluvuori, and there is the middle point, the hole in the pole, because your fylgje go from the ash to the root, to the stem, to the branch, to the leaf, and fylgje leave in form of mahla, akka, through the air to the hole in the North Pole, and from this North Pole it go out from the hole E, from the key of Lemminkäinen, who making children with a Disa, coming out Ravi, who making children with a Jarl, woman, coming out Jarl boys and girls. The Jarl boys is making children with a Karl, woman, coming out small Karl boys and girls. And the Karl men is making children with a Träl, woman, so coming out Träl boys and girls. Now when the last of these caste doesn't make children, it's become no name. We had only one shield with the mark of the spur when they went out for breeding. Now, in this way, they had one Allfather, the Ukko, in the top of the planet, enlightened, because sun and Udenman at top had one effect. So you see him still in Chinese drawings and carvings. You can see Ukko on the top of this hill, still around the planet. If you look for him, you find him, because we know that we had only one Ukko. So when you make one face of one respected old man, you can call him Sankt Niklas, you can call him Baba Natal, you can call him Père Noël, you can call him Father Christ, you can call him Diet Maros. The Moscow people say Diet Maros. And in Rome they talk about Baba Natal, and Baba is father also in Hindi, they talk Baba, old Baba.
And Abba in Israel.
Yeah. So there are all these men, and we have one pipe in our country, because P means one circle. That you remember now. P is one circle. So P is also Oden, because it's the circle Oden. P. Now the wood is Poo. P-U. Now it's P is Pole and U is U. So Poo is Oden's Pole. See it like that. But Poo is also, for normal one people here in Finland, we talk about Poo floor. Now from this Poo material you make one P, and then you get one P, Poo, one P Poo. Now P means the ring and the Poo is the Poo, and you make one shaft. And when it's for masculine, the hole is in the bottom of the P Poo, and it's go round like one kaura. So you smoke it, but when it's for the feminine, they have one long shaft, when the shaft comes from the side of the pipe, and that we call tupa akka pipu. Now tupa is the room for the woman, akka is the highest woman on the planet, tupa akka, pi is the circle, and pu is the material. So tupa akka pi pu is tupa akka pi. But we have the other one who is called Ukko Pipu, and that is Ukko. And that's one man with one face, and you put inside something to smoke. That we have always, because it's in the sound, so we must have been smoking in the paradise time. Because when this kind of sound is in our language, I understand that smoking in pipe, it's a very old thing. This I want to tell to these people in Holland, because they've been appreciating to smoke. And I know that it's good for the brain. Umbole.
Vaya. Back.
Yeah.
But
the end of the alphabet goes then V, I, A, Vaya, back to the A.
no. Ah. Now the I is the tresol. From the I, det is the tresol, the solträdet. Sol
Almost
is
like
the
this.
sun. Sol is the sun, sol is Orden, and sol is your mouth, and when your mouth le, you sol len, and all children always make one ring with one smiling. Sol is the mouth in one language, and le is the smile in root language. So sol len, in one they call it aurin ku, means the sun, sol, and aurin ku, and ku is the moon, and aurin ku in the language of Finnish people means aurin ku is the sun, and ku is the moon. Now we have måne and solen, and solen means really smiling mouth. Now this is the tresol with this tresol. It's one Q in the middle and two bockhorn on the other side. And that's the E, is the breather. So it's actually, but also Ukko has it. And Wijnen have tresol. Zeus has tresol. Jupiter has tresol. Shiva has tresol. You can see a little bit who had this tresol on pictures we still have everywhere, but it's one symbol of breathing anyway,
You know,
or life.
I was thinking about this story of Adam and Eve because I'm raised with the other story of the origin of the world. Also, paradise was the same. There was paradise, there was enough tropical fruits, and the animals were happy, and the women got children without pain, and so there was Adam and the first man and the first woman. And then Eve, she ate an apple, she listened to the snake, and paradise was gone. And so I was thinking this morning, and I thought, well, maybe it was something like that the woman didn't want to stick with these breeding rules, and they said, well, actually I like it all the time, I like to fuck all the time, stop drinking the sperm, make love to me, and maybe that was the end of paradise. What do you think?
I don't know what I think, but I can say you that in the Bible they say that the people was turning away their face from the God.
The God.
Yeah. And they say it like that. And for us to say that the men stopped to drink their own sperm so they could rule over themselves.
As otherwise they would be so in tune with nature and cosmic inspiration.
Yeah, but I mean, here is one man who is the ruler. Then in the Bible is the woman who was made the all wrong.
Yeah.
So there is also one opposite presented.
And so definitely that your story is much more an equality of man and woman than in the Bible, because there Adam is born, takes his whip out, and he has a woman. So, and here you have one complete man.
Sperma. S, you remember, solen. S is the sun. Per is Ukko. Sperma. Like Udenmaa, Kymenmaa, Hämeenmaa, Turunmaa, Liivinmaa, Eestinmaa, maa. And ma. And every children say ma before they've been listening to the surrounding. So it seems to come like spontaneous mama for children. Before they have the chance to listen to what is in this family, they call it the mama. So mama must be by natural sound, and papa also. Papa, mama, papa. Otherwise it shouldn't exist all over this same world.
As you were checking this story, which you heard 20 years long, you were actually brainwashed or brain instructed by your mother and your aunt.
My sister.
Are you sisters?
Yes, she is. We are from same story, Rakel and me.
I see. And they were talking to you, and you took all in that information. And then when you started to apply it to the rest of the world, to other languages and to history, did you find it logical? Did you see like that their story actually fits with the history of mankind as you hear it from other sides?
I find out that when my surroundings started to drink their own sperm, they could, in a more real, their own thing, tell me where they actually could take away something unlogical. So they become more pure to tell me their thing when they have been drinking their own sperm.
Which is like a meditation time. Or also a physical effect.
No, it's physical, only like with one communication, sitting together in front of the fire, talking, finding out that now when they've been drinking their own sperm, we can communicate in different ways.
Because they're more relaxed?
More relaxed, more concrete than before. Of course, also you know one other person and one group of people. You know already that they know how you feel, and so you can be more sure. And that way you become more take only words, and especially in the sound system you throw one word to Michelle example, and we can have nice for that word for 10 minutes smiling. Even in newspaper they can make such a nice thing for us now. Whereas they also find it out, this one language. So we can, and also we who drink our sperm, I feel that we have been getting much more when this girlfriend is coming who is belong to one man. She is always sitting with this man and she can't get anything. But when they are coming separately, I think all are very open to this woman because she has this man there. I feel that everybody who comes with their girlfriend, they can be a little afraid at the beginning that what is this? Because it's anyway some kind of not emotional forever love. It's not, I think, existing. That we can see on the result of the planet today, where not the system seems to work so well. I mean, not so high quality of the man today. No, all kind of races making children.
So the original teaching about mankind actually is man. They have to stay in contact with their own nature. They have to drink their own sperm. The women actually have to support them to do that, because if they don't do it, it's not going well for the women also.
Yeah, that we know now. But I'm not so sure how you must know it before this man stopped in that paradise time end.
But for the woman, it's important to take the power of nature, to take the leaves from the tree and make the tea and drink for their own well-being.
Yeah, but also the man was drinking.
Also?
Yes. But it was for this woman. It's always put on this air with this woman, this mahla. So I have been really carried through this female thing. There are not so this really, but you see it in the air if you will go really through this egg. You see it there in this female, strong. So I think I don't want to answer this.
Well, thank you very much again.
Yeah, nice that you came again and asked again a little bit. Yes. Yeah. I have found out that you understand. So welcome again.
Thank you.
Thank you for your visit in Akamesa in my parents' home. Shaking hand, a warm handshake, you say. In the postcard.
With many thanks to Mr. Ior Bock and the Positive Foundation. For all information, contact Mr. Stuart Rice, President, Positive Foundation, 222 Kanayo, Maui, Hawaii.